Okay, let's unpack this. Welcome to this deep dive.
Hey there.
You've sent us some really unique material. It's all centered around a very specific way of looking at digital images.
That's right. And we're focusing entirely today on the perspective from this one audio excerpt from someone named Kevin Christian.
Yeah, and the core idea here, the claim in this source, it's about finding, what is it called? Secret codes.
Secret codes, hidden information, yeah. Supposedly embedded right there in images that, might just look ordinary otherwise.
Right, so our mission really is just to act as guides through the claims in this source.
Exactly. We're not adding anything from outside.
No, just exploring how this individual thinks these codes work, what they supposedly reveal, sticking strictly to the ideas you shared with us.
Perfect. So where should we start? The central premise.
Yeah, let's set the scene. The source is basically saying these aren't just pictures.
No, definitely not. They're asserted to have specific, intended meaning.
And that meaning is often linked, by the source anyway, to individuals. And, well, these concepts the source calls remote neural monitoring, RNM.
RNM, yeah, and also gang stalking. That's the connection the source makes.
It's quite a claim, something significant, supposedly right there in plain sight, but you need a special way to see it. So how? How do you actually find this hidden info, according to this view?
Well, the source lays out this specific decoding method. It suggests you got to look at the pictures in a certain way.
A certain way, like how?
Sometimes that means looking at them, believe it or not, in a blur.
A blur.
Yeah. Or other times maybe doing things like changing the invert setting, flipping the colors.
Visual manipulations.
Right, or other adjustments. And then there's this other concept they bring up.
Oh, yeah, the resizing info. What's that about?
Right. So as the source describes it, you click on a picture, and you might see different, full resolutions listed, not just one or two.
How many are we talking?
Potentially loads. The source mentions maybe even up to around 50 different versions or sizes for one image.
50. Wow. And each one is supposedly different. Significant.
Exactly. That's the really critical part, according to this material. Each of these different resolutions, these sizing infos, is presented as slightly different. It's not just like making the same picture bigger or smaller in the usual way.
So it's not just standard resizing.
No. The source asserts they are distinct, that each one will be a little different, revealing different information or codes when you look at them using those techniques, like the blur or the invert.
Okay, let me get this straight. You have the main picture.
Right.
Then you have potentially dozens of these other sizing infos linked to it, each slightly different. So what's the point? What does the source claim this whole decoding thing actually uncovers?
Well, according to the source, the main picture itself, that relates to a targeted person.
Okay, the main subject.
Yeah, the primary image you see first.
And all those variations, the sizing info.
Those, the source claims, relate to the Gangstalkers, specifically the ones who are supposedly on their neural monitoring.
So it's a way to identify them.
That's the assertion. It's presented as a method to decode this stuff and figure out, where's your RNM and who's actually gang-stalking you.
So a technique to link alleged harassers to a specific targeted person via these image variations.
That's the idea put forward in the source, yeah.
And the source doesn't just talk about this in theory, right? They give some specific examples, context.
Yeah, they do. They mention putting out flyers about this, like actual Gangstalker flyers.
Okay.
And they also talk about trying to find a specific website where some of this stuff was located.
Right. Wasn't there some confusion about the name?
Exactly. They first thought it was called TI info.
TI for targeted individual.
That seems to be the implication, yeah. But then they found out it was actually TL Tech.
Interesting. And what happened when they actually searched for TI info? Did they find the site?
Well, the source claims that searching that term just brought up loads of pictures of TIs.
Oh.
Which the source felt was like a deliberate move to throw you off.
Right.
A distraction.
Okay. And they gave an example of the kind of image that might have this hidden stuff.
They did. They mentioned clicking on a picture of lipstick.
Lipstick? Really?
Yeah, just as an example of an image that they felt would supposedly have some kind of secret, something going on with it. It's something you'd need those viewing techniques for.
So it's not just like suspicious looking images. It could be anything.
Seems to be the suggestion, yes. And it's not just limited to standard image files either, apparently.
What else?
They briefly touch upon hex files.
Okay, like raw data.
Sort of. claiming they're not a bunch of words, but actually contain text forms, pictures, and secret codes, if you look at them right, maybe from different angles. Similar idea to the images.
Huh. And the source gives a bit of background on their, like, tech setup when they were doing this.
Yeah, just a little context. They mention using a Chromebook.
Why a Chromebook?
Because, they claim, their Windows PC and their MacBook had been hacked.
Ah.
And they also mention trying to keep them, presumably the people they believe are monitoring them, off a recently reset HP computer.
Right, and installing specific software.
Yeah, they mentioned installing AMPP-SBS and Android Studio, suggesting these were maybe tools or steps related to this whole exploration.
Gotcha. And one more observation the source made about the codes themselves.
Oh, right. They noted that the images or the codes they were finding seemed to be constantly changing.
Changing out.
Like cycling through different ones over time, implying it wasn't static, but dynamic, evolving information.
Okay, so if we just stick purely to what's in the source material you sent,
Yeah.
what does this all add up to? What's the takeaway from this perspective?
Well, from this source's perspective, it's offering a really unique way to interpret digital images, a very specific lens.
Yeah, it's suggesting they can hold these hidden layers of meaning.
Exactly. Layers accessible not through, like, normal ways of looking at file data, but through these specific viewing methods and by analyzing all these sizing infos.
So it's really a window into a particular worldview, isn't it?
Absolutely. And a specific claimed method for trying to uncover information about these pretty complex and, frankly, controversial topics like R&M and gang stalking.
But based only on what this one source asserts.
Critically important, yes. We have to keep stressing that. We're just laying out the ideas and claims from the source you shared.
Right. Our job here is just to guide you, the listener, through its specific perspective.
We're not validating it, not endorsing it, just presenting it impartially as it was given to us.
So we've kind of walked through the claims in this source, explored this method it describes for decoding images. A method the source believes reveals info about remote neural monitoring and gang stalking.
And the source ends on a pretty strong note, doesn't it?
Yeah, asserting that the jig is up and the word is out about this R&M stuff, claiming it's going to be real exposed.
It definitely leaves you thinking, and it raises a pretty interesting question, I think.
Which is?
Well, if you take the source's claim at face value, just for a moment, this idea that information could be deliberately hidden in plain sight like that.
Yeah.
Hidden inside digital media, maybe even changing depending on how you look at it or what version you examine. What does that imply?
What does it imply about how we interact with data?
Yeah.
Or perception itself?
Exactly. About our relationship with digital information and maybe the slipperiness of perception online. It's definitely something to maybe ponder next time you're scrolling through images.